Hello and good evening, everybody. Happy Saturday. My name is Corey Pools. I am your host for Voluntary Sports Radio, brought to you by RE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. And guys, I'm happy to be here with you guys this Saturday evening. We have a lot going on in the world of sports right now. Now here in Florida, things are a little bit dulled down from the normal due to the fact that obviously the NFL is now wrapping up with the Super Bowl. Tomorrow's going to be a great game. Can't wait to see what happens. And guys, I just want to touch on a few things regarding our team. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We'll also get into a few things about the Jags and the Finns as well, and then we'll go from there. Guys, thank you again for choosing me today on your Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening, depending on where you're at on the East Coast, West Coast. And guys, I'm very delighted to be in this spot. And I just want to say thank you guys again for all those who listen. And guys, let's get right on into it, okay? So, for the Buccaneers, I have a bit of information for them. So there's actually some very good news coming out of Tampa Bay for us, because for all those who are longtime Buccaneer fans, if you guys remember the 2002 season where the Buccaneers recorded one of the top 5 greatest defenses of all time and also brought home a Super Bowl trophy for the first time in Tampa Bay's short but illustrious, tendency, however long, what do you call it? Tenure? My bad. There we go. Tenure. The reason why I use the term tenure is because Tampa Bay Buccaneers are actually one of the youngest teams in the NFL. Along with the Seahawks, they're part of expansion teams in 1976, I believe it was. So when you look back that far, they're not as old as the Packers and the Raiders and the Washington Commanders and some of these teams that have been around, Chicago Bears, that have been around for a long, long time. So that's a beautiful thing for us, something that we are greatly proud of here in this city. And among those great players that played on that team was one Rondé Barber. He was personally my favorite player on that defense the year we won the Super Bowl for a few reasons. And I'll get into that in a second, but he is now a Hall of Famer. And guys, when I tell you that this one was long overdue, Sapp, Lynch, and Brooks, don't get me wrong, they all deserve to be in the Hall of Famer. But as a guy who, had grown up and watched these guys and saw for how long they were able to, play the game at a high level, it was clear that they were definitely Hall of Famers. So Rondé Barber finally got the nod. He absolutely deserves it. He is one of, I don't remember how many quarterbacks have done this. He might be the only one who has done this in NFL history, but he's recorded, I believe it was, over 40 interceptions and 20 sacks from the cornerback position. And the reason why that's significant is, guys, you see that here in the NFL. You see it a lot of the times where cornerbacks will blitz and they don't get home, or the quarterback feeds the ball right to where they're blitzing from. And that just goes to show you that Rondé Barber was such astute at his craft that he was able to get home more times than not. And he didn't get beat often either. He was a very hard cornerback to beat. He was very intellectual, watched a lot of film, did a lot of studying, and that led to a lot of what you saw on the field, which was him being able to read coverage. Of course, probably the greatest play in Tampa Bay Buccaneer history, which is that coast-to-coast Rondé Barber picking off Donovan McNabb, a 95-yard interception return to send us over to the Super Bowl. And also to close out, Veterans Stadium was the name of the stadium at the time. That was the last game that the Eagles were going to play in that stadium before they tore it down and made a new one. So, they really thought they were going to celebrate. Maybe they'll celebrate tomorrow, but they definitely didn't celebrate then. So, it is what it is. Shout out to, obviously that 02 Buccaneer team season in general was magical. It was just absolutely... It was something that we'll never see again from the defensive perspective, guys. Remember this. They scored on defense 9 separate times, all right, that season. So when people wonder, what makes that Tampa Bay defense that good, well, I'll tell you this much. They were one of the few teams in NFL history to record 2 shutouts in the same season without allowing a single score. That doesn't mean a field goal. I mean 0 points they allowed in 2 separate games that season. I believe it was the Ravens and maybe Chicago. There was another team that we blanked that year, and I can't remember which one it was, but I believe it was Chicago. It might have been Chicago. So that's one of the big reasons. Another reason, again, like I said, scoring 9 times on defense, picking off the league's #1 offense and the highest scoring offense that year, which was the Raiders. Rich Gannon at quarterback. They had Jerry Rice, Joey Porter, Charlie, what's his name, the running back. So they had a really good team, and so when Tampa Bay slid into that Super Bowl, picked them off 5 times. It was something that you just hadn't seen before, returning 3 for touchdowns. One by Derrick Brooks to seal the game too by Dwight Smith. So MVP for that year also, or MVP for that Super Bowl was Dexter Jackson. For those who don't know that, for random, if they ever ask you, name those players that, weren't quarterbacks, that's one of them. So, yes, Ronnie Barber, Hall of Famer. Also, Darrelle Revis, the one-time Buccaneer, has also made the Hall of Fame this year, so congrats to him. He came over to Tampa Bay for one season, and it was a blessing to have him. It was after an injury, and he did great. He played very, very well, so it's something that I am thankful for, to have had Darrelle Revis, now another Hall of Famer, that donned the Buccaneers jersey. So something for us to be proud of. And again, we were glad to have him for that year. He balled out. He did. He was very, very good that year for us. So, excellent. So, in lighter news, Tom Brady signed his official retirement letter. So, guys, of course, as you guys would imagine, when you retire from something, obviously there's usually like some type of written escapade about, what your experience was like, and then, your well wishes, towards that company or the franchise in this case, but whatever it may be. So Tom signed his. He is officially done. Look for him a year from now to be in the booth, guys, and he's going to teach a lot of people a lot of stuff, guys. Just imagine that 20 years of some of the best football you can find is going to now be talking to us about the game and the things that he used to see. So, there's going to be a lot of kids who listen to him and take notes and learn so much. And yeah, Revis Island, definitely, dude. He absolutely, I'm so proud of him. He was one of those few guys that you could put on anybody just about, except for Moss that one time, but you could put him on just about anybody else, and he would, yeah, they're gonna have to swim to safety because it's an island, like you said. So I'll leave it at that with the Tom Brady bit, though. So moving on to a few other details, again, minor details for Tampa Bay. Still looking for an offensive coordinator. We've been interviewing everybody, okay? We interviewed the quarterback's coach for Cincinnati for a second time. That's kind of who I want if it's not going to be Todd Monken. We're not sure where that's going to go. I think he had a second interview as well, but I think it stopped there. We interviewed the tight ends coach for the Rams. I don't really want anybody from that staff, to be completely honest with you, because that team's already going through enough as it is. So I think at this point that I would be very, very much so interested in the quarterback coach for JB, though, because obviously, his work is showing, and not necessarily because, y'all know me, I already thought JB was a great quarterback. I thought he was going to come out and be phenomenal, and he has been. But I will say that it does take a village, especially in the game of football. You got to have the right people saying the right things, because the wrong things will always get you messed up. That's something we know in sports, guys. So, moving on with that, we'll see what happens. That's my hope. We'll see. We'll just have to wait and see, guys. As soon as that happens, I'll be back to you guys, of course, with that update, whenever it finally pops up. The mock drafts do keep having Tampa Bay, for the most part, getting a quarterback. Most of the time, I'm also basically seeing Anthony Richardson there. Yeah, I remember my hot take from last week that, finding a way to draft two quarterbacks this year may be the way to go, just because of how unpredictable and unsure the free agent market is going to be, and, teams willing to get rid of their quarterbacks. So, yeah, I absolutely don't want to copy and paste the Rams. It's not the right time. And then if we do that, we'll be setting ourselves back a year, considering all they did was kind of do the same thing Tampa Bay did. Get a veteran quarterback, help him out on the defense and on the offensive line, which they already kind of had a good offensive line at that point, actually. But then, what do? You sell out and you go to a Super Bowl in your own home and you win it. So I don't think there's a need for us to go look at somebody who is doing what we're doing and try to implicate that. I think we need to continue to find our own path, and I think we also need to continue to try to do it through the draft too, because we all know that the best teams, most dynasties in history, come from drafting well. And you look at the Cowboys, you look at the early Packers, you look at the 49ers, all these teams, the Patriots, all these teams, they draft very well consistently. That's one of the few things that every single one of those teams have in common, besides having a lights out quarterback, that they draft very, very well. So I can't stress that fact enough that Tampa Bay needs to get back to that. So we'll see what happens with the draft when it finally gets here. But like I said, again, that may be the option. Of course, you may not have to draft two quarterbacks depending on if you get a veteran quarterback in free agency, but it's going to have to be somebody reliable. When I say reliable, no disrespect to him, but I don't want like a Jimmy G right now, because I don't want to say, hey, we can go 4-2 in the first 6 games if they're easy games, right? And then he gets injured and now the rest of our season is a question mark. Don't want to do that. So that's what I have for Tampa Bay, guys. We'll look more into the future, as more information comes along, and we'll tie it all together and see how it applies to us. We still have the cap space issue. There are things that we're going to try to do to rectify it, but of course, it's not going to be said and done in a single day. It's going to take a while. So we'll see what kind of moves can be made. We'll see if there are going to be any extensions made or anything like that. And again, as soon as any of the information breaks, I'll have it down for you guys, and I'll deliver it right to you. Let's go ahead and move on to the Jags. Both the Jags and the Finns don't have very much to report either. Tampa Bay, the only reason why it seemed like they had much to report is more or less because of the Hall of Fame. You got 2 players. Other than that, it's just the Tom Brady retirement and the OC search. So it's very similar with the Jags right now. Obviously, they just hired Chad Hall from the Bills, so that's a great addition. I believe he was the receivers coach, I believe it was. So that's going to be helpful for the Jags. I think that was a great move. They haven't splashed too much else outside of that. That was pretty much the biggest thing that came through for them. Obviously, retaining such a young squad. And this is one of those things where, like, you say, well, they did draft, well, they got some good pieces in the draft, and they went out in free agency, and they got some great pieces, and look, and it translated, right? So, that's one of those things where you keep adding sauce, right? You just keep on adding more help, more people that know how to get the job done and that are proven. And I feel like that's exactly what they did here with bringing Chad Hall on from Buffalo. So good job there with that sign, guys. And then on to the Finns. Obviously the one thing about the Finns right now, besides obviously Tua, he's most likely going to become a weapon next year, and we'll see what happens. We'll see exactly what happens. I am sorry, you guys. We had a guest referee in the bit. That was my son. I'm sorry to break character for a second, but that was my son. He came barreling into the room. I guess maybe he heard my voice from the distance and was like, "Dad." But hey, I apologize. I hope it was a cute moment for you guys, as you can hear him laughing in the background. So anyhow, the Dolphins. Okay, guys, the Dolphins. The Tua Tagovailoa situation obviously seems to be improving. Tua feels like he's gonna be good and good to go for next season and whatnot, and he'll be able to be that weapon that he was before the concussions in the middle towards the end of the season. So, again, good luck to him. But Zach Thomas, moments for him. Growing up, he was an astute linebacker. I watched him, and he understood the field from a defensive perspective. He reminded me of a more agile Brian Urlacher. That's more or less who he was, in my opinion. A faster version, somebody who could cut corners a little bit better, because Brian was strong. That dude was freaking huge and strong. And whereas Zach, he played with a little bit more speed, still had the same aggression, but played with a little bit more speed. So hey, he absolutely deserves it. Again, I watched his career down in Miami. He was part of some very interesting teams that should have made some deep playoff pushes, to say the least. But, congrats to him for making the Pro Football Hall of Fame. He deserves it. And, it couldn't happen to a better person. And yes, the Eagles are a perfect example of doing that, because it's funny watching Jalen Hurts in college and watching Tua in college, and you could see both those guys were going to start. Like, we would have these conversations, me and my dad, for instance, and I would say, Dad, these are 2 great quarterbacks. We're going to see both these guys on Sundays. And yes, so that's a perfect example of that. Peyton Manning absolutely coming out of Tennessee. Now, one of the things I love to brag about with Peyton is he never beat the Florida Gators, but the Florida Gators were a very defensive-minded team, especially in the late 90s. We had some good offense, of course, under Steve Spurrier, but we had some suffocating defenses as well. And that was one of the things that drove Peyton, insane. But it's funny because his translation to the NFL was just the opposite. He was able to beat, all 32 teams pretty much multiple times. And I think he became the first quarterback in NFL history to beat all 32 teams. So, yes, absolutely agree with those enunciations. And that's just what Tampa Bay needs to do. And just understand that, hey, look, it's been done before. Here's the recipe. Here's what to look for. Now go find the guy and make the move for him. And whatever that takes. If that means we got to give up a draft pick, or we got to do something, all right, and we got to do that. But we have to be willing to take that chance, because the payoff is huge. The payoff is unrivaled success, like the 20 years Tom had in New England before he came here. So But with that being said, guys, let's go ahead and jump into our first break. When we get back, we'll talk about a little bit of college football, then we'll slide into the rest of sports, NBA, NHL, and go from there. I got some news on tonight's fight as well for the UFC pound for pound rankings. Of course, I'm not going to go into too much detail, but just to leave you guys with some food for thought at the end. So we'll get to it as soon as we get back from this commercial. Again, my name is Corey Pujols, your host for Palm Tree Sports, brought to you by IE Sports Radio. Keep it locked here. Don't move.
What's up, sports fans? Are you looking for the latest on Northern California sports? Then take a trip out west with me, your host, Gina G, on Reppin' to NorCal Sports, right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I'll be bringing it to you all the way live every Monday at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern. And it's always a packed show. I'll bring you everything Dynastic 49ers, the bite of the San Jose Sharks, torture of the San Francisco Giants, the Golden State Warriors that we still believe. Then take you across the bay to the rise and grind of the Oakland A's. I've got you covered on college ball from the Cal Bears to the Stanford Cardinal, so that no matter what, reppin' in NorCal Sports is always reppin' the Bay. So if you bleed red and gold, or you're looking to keep an eye out west in them thar hills, don't miss me, Gina G, on reppin' in NorCal Sports. Catch me every Monday at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, and I'll have your fandom repped harder than a trio of defenders guarding Stephen Curry before his buzzer beater is Gucci.
It's IE Sports Radio. It is your direct feed for all that is sports. It is Philly Sports Talk with Cash and Chris every Tuesday night right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Philly Sports Talk with Cash and Chris is the most comprehensive view on Philadelphia sports exclusively right here on IE Sports Radio. You know what it is, your direct feed for all that is sports. Tuesday night, IE Sports Radio, Philly Sports Talk with Cash and Chris.
You know, Philly is a big sports town. They're going to be enjoying tomorrow, so I can't imagine that, you know, he's not going to have a ton of stuff, you know, a ton of material just for the Super Bowl itself, right? Especially since the Eagles were here a couple of years back in 2017 when they knocked off Tom Brady and the Patriots. So, you know, look forward to hearing what kind of material, what kind of sauce is going to come out of there with Andrew. So you guys get ready for that. But you're back with me here at Palm Tree Sports. Again, my name is Corey Pujols, and I am your host. And, of course, brought to you by iSports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. My apologies. And, guys, now we're going to jump into a little bit of college football news. Again, not a lot because we're in the off season, but there are a few details to go over. Starting with the Florida Gators, I'm gonna start with the broccoli first because it's obviously a sad situation, and every college at some point in time pretty much has gone through this. So I don't want to make it a light situation, but I just urge everybody to, you know, have your thoughts and prayers out to the University of Florida. Unfortunately, one of the walk-ons, the young, very, very young walk-ons at Florida, suddenly passed away on Thursday at 21 years old. The young man's name is Caleb Boateng, and he was an offensive slash defensive lineman for the Gators. He saw action in a couple of games this past season. I did remember seeing him actually in those games. He played, I think it was 5 or 6 different games that he showed up, he appeared in. And so with that being said, it's just a sad thing because he, again, 21 years old, walk on, and you know he loves the game of football. You know, he loves the game. It's just such a tragedy whenever somebody so young passes away. But you know what the saying is, the young go early. So, you know, the prayers and family, or prayers to the family, and our thoughts are with Florida right now as they are grieving the loss of one of their teammates. So guys, just, you know, have them in your mind, in your thoughts and your prayers as we, you know, continue to move on and the family moves on again from this. So with that being said, we're going to slide right back into the rest of it though. So there's obviously going to be a couple of Gators that are going to be playing in the Super Bowl tomorrow, which is going to be a nice little mention. So for those who do not know, obviously they'll do the football introductions for the teams, the offense, defense, tell you who's playing and whatnot. But you're going to get to see 2 exciting players from the University of Florida. It's going to be more than 2 if I'm not mistaken. There's definitely more than 2 on both teams. But specifically, you're going to get to see Kadarius Toney. Okay, Kadarius Toney was a converted wide receiver from a quarterback at the University of Florida. And when I tell you this guy has his college tape is a top 10 tape all time. And if you haven't seen it, then I apologize for you missing out on that. And when I say a top 10 tape, you're talking to somebody who's watched thousands of hours of tape, okay? Like thousands, almost anything I can get my hands on. Doesn't matter what school, what college, what football team, you know, it doesn't matter, especially in the game of football. And I'm telling you guys right now, go on YouTube and go look at Kadarius Toney's college. You guys will be like, you'll lose your breath. It'll be taken away from you because this guy is electric, literally electricity in a human being. So Kadarius Toney is going to get to play. Can't wait to see what he's going to do. Very much so enjoyed watching him his entire college career. On the opposite side, there's going to be one Chauncey Gardner that's playing. Now, this guy was defensive back and a captain for the Florida Gators, and he was one of the guys that were responsible for the bitter defeat of Michigan in that ball game a few years. It was a Citrus Bowl, I think it was. I can't remember exactly which bowl. I think it was a Citrus Bowl. We played in Michigan. Michigan was favored. Michigan usually beats Florida, too. For those who don't know the history of Florida and Michigan, Michigan tends to beat Florida more times than not. So this is one of those times where Florida's going into the game. We're like, hey, we're going to get this dub. And not only did we get the dub, we got it in dramatic, spectacular fashion. It was beautiful. It was phenomenal. And that guy was in the forefront. I believe he had 2 interceptions that game. He was coming out party on his way in his last game as a senior at Florida to go out, and he did it in style. So shout out to him. He's going to be playing as well. I just hope he doesn't let his ego get the best of him, because unfortunately that is the downside to him as a player, is that he does possess a bit of an ego, and he's got to keep that in check or else, because Patrick Mahomes doesn't care about all that ego stuff. Now, with that being said, my thoughts on the Super Bowl haven't much changed. Again, I think it's either going to be 38-33 or 33-31. I'm leaning more towards the Eagles. Of course, I would like the Chiefs to win because I like Patty, but it is what it is. The Eagles have, again, the better overall defense, so we'll see what happens there. But that's just a step for the Gators right there. Again, we have had 21 straight Super Bowls with Florida Gator drafted players playing in them. So, you know, that's just a phenomenal run for the Florida Gators, something that should hopefully attract talent for the coming future to show people that, hey, we don't just develop talent, we send people to teams that play for Super Bowls, okay? And we do it consistently. So hopefully that's something that can stretch out here at the University of Florida. Speaking of stretching out, guys, for those who did not know, there are going to be a bunch of teams that are going to be joining the SEC. Now, this was supposed to take place in 2025. However, it's been bumped up. So the likes of Oklahoma, Texas, and friends that will be joining, it may just be those 2 teams, but I'm not sure if they're going to add more. These things change by the year, guys, so you have to keep that fluidity in mind, that nothing's ever the same twice. So we'll see what happens, but they bumped it up a year. So at the end of this year, the 2023-2024 season, Texas, Oklahoma, and possibly other teams will be joining the SEC. Guys, that is a humongous deal simply because those 2 colleges already recruit out of the SEC. For those who do not know, the SEC is the It's the powerhouse and arguably the greatest conference of all time. Arguably, I can't say that it is because obviously you got Michigan, Ohio State, Michigan State, Penn State all in the same conference as well. To me, that's a who's who. But here in the SEC, we do have Bama, LSU, Auburn, Florida, Georgia, and other teams, obviously Tennessee. So many teams here as well that would rival any of those teams in their greatness. So with that being said, it's just kind of up to where your displacement is at, what kind of football you like to see. Do you like the West Coast pop and you like, trench war football? Do you like running the ball in good defense? Do you like running gun? Like, whatever your style is, there's something for that in college. And that leads the SEC to become kind of that symbol, right? Especially after adding Texas and Oklahoma. These are two teams that have been powerhouse teams for well over 100 years now in the college football lens. So this is a tremendous addition to the SEC. They are very, very so much well welcome here, and I cannot wait to see what type of competition they provide. And also, I can't wait to see how them joining the SEC impacts the recruiting process that takes place down here, because I imagine it'll have both a good effect and a bad effect depending on how the market is for the players, especially for colleges who are looking for skill position players such as wide receiver, running back, and of course quarterbacks. So that's what I have for the Florida Gators. Moving on over to the Noles real quick. Obviously, Mike Norvell, somebody that you guys want to keep. Guess what? Sign a contract extension. Good for you guys. That's a W in the eyes of a Noles fan, I imagine, and I think that's a move that is exactly what they should have done. I 100% agree with that move, and I just hope that it continues to work out for you guys. Again, going 10-3 on the season this past season, that leads to the second point that is on the Noles radars for a head coach, and one former Ohio State and University of Florida head coach Urban Meyer names Florida State one of most enticing jobs currently for vacant head coaching positions. What does that mean? That means, hey, if there's any head coaches out there that are looking for work, that have a pedigree, that have something that they can offer FSU, could be a match made in heaven. Now, who will that be? I'm not sure. I'll tell you who I would like to see. This going to sound crazy. This going to sound really, really crazy. I would not be too much lost for words if Charlie Strong went there. And the reason why I say that is because that's a team that has a solid defense, all right? FSU's pretty much always had a decent run game for the most part. When it's usually when it's not good, it's because of coaching, is what I mean to say. So I suspect that they'll return to having a good run game, and then you have a bunch of young talent. And that's the kind of coach that can mold that kind of roster. And I mean, in my opinion, he did really good at USF. You know what I'm saying? So, like, there's you got to decide what's best for you at the end of the day. But FSU is looking for a head coach. Charlie's got experience. He may not be the best option. I'm just speaking from the way of his coaching perspective is concerned. And that FSU, again, has one of the most enticing jobs in the country right now. So, find that head coach. And you guys will be good to go. Again, 10-3, really, really good, and something just that's phenomenal to build off of. You always want to come off of something like that. Now for the Canes, speaking of Charlie Strong, which is part of the reason why I mentioned him, because obviously he's leaving Miami after the DC snub. Now, why he didn't get the defensive coordinator position, I'm sure I don't know. I think he was snubbed. The common masses seem to think that he was snubbed. So with that being said, I think we all agree that he should have been DC. He's not. It is what it is. They're just going to have to move on without him, because he said once he found out that he wasn't going to come back. Unfortunate for Miami, they lost a piece there. Let's go ahead and move on from college football, guys. Again, there wasn't all that much to really talk about. Again, being the offseason, basically we're just eyeballing offseason moves and going from there. So we'll see what happens next week, and it'll be something different next week. So moving on to the NBA, though, guys. So the Heat and the Magic play. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of put these two teams together for this segment, and there's a very simple reason why. Again, like I said, they play each other. Not only do they play each other, but they're in two different sides of the same coin, right? So both here in Florida, but Orlando just traded Mo Bamba to the Lakers for Pat Beverly, okay? I'm not up the wall about the trade. I'm not down the wall about the trade, guys. It's a trade. The Lakers, I think, acquired a good piece, but I think Pat Bev's defense and his leadership is something that they may have needed to keep, especially after getting rid of Westbrook, which I also don't agree with. But Orlando gets a heck of a player, guys. So, hey, that could be very helpful for the Magic. We'll see what happens there. The records between the Magic and the Lakers aren't necessarily too refutable either. It's not like either one of these teams are flying too hot now. The Lakers are starting to put some work together to trying to have a shot towards the end of the season. You got to ask yourself, has it been too late? Has there been too many injuries? And can this team actually last long enough? With the Magic, they're, again, just a very young team. So, adding some leadership is good in that aspect. I absolutely think that's a phenomenal move there as far as that's concerned, but they're still going to have to get better over time. Now, the Heat, Miami, sporting a 31-25 record. They have been 3-3 in the last 6 games that they have played, and since they're going to be playing the Magic, by the way, that game is going to be tonight, guys. It's tonight at 7. So, if you want to watch that game, comes on in about a half hour. If you're going to be watching UFC, you're going to want to turn that on now because the prelims already started at 6 o'clock, guys. So just 2 things for as far as, what to watch for tonight. But again, the Heat Magic tonight, obviously I'm suspecting the Heat are going to win after losing Mo Bamba. The Magic are going to kind of struggle a little bit trying to replace him or put somebody in a position to be able to do what he was able to do. That guy was his production was off the wall, at least from a personal perspective for him this year, setting personal highs as well while playing for the Orlando Magic in the first half of the season. So the Magic, on the other hand, will be moving over to the Bulls. The Bulls aren't sporting a 500 record either. They're 26-25, guys, but that record's a heck of a lot better than 23-33. The Magic are 10 games under 500, guys. So let that sink in, all right? And again, 500 is like you're lucky to get in to the playoffs. Like, you'll get in, but there's probably going to be maybe 2, maybe sometimes 3 other teams that are floating around that 500 mark that could get in. So you got to do better, guys. I know you're young. We all know you're young, but again, you got to do better, especially when you're struggling to stay at 500, guys. So that's what's to expect for tonight and for the Magic and for the Heat when they play tonight. And then obviously the Magic, they're going to move on to my apologies, the Heat are going to move on to the Nuggets. That game is going to be a dense game for them. The Nuggets are flying high right now, sporting a 38-18 record. They're playing really good basketball with Joker over there, Jamal, and those boys. So obviously the Heat are going to have a hard one there. If they can pull that out, then it'll be good to go as they move on to the future. But they're going to have to start adding these wins instead of going win for loss, because again, this is something we talked about last week where yes, you're building your record up and you're getting better and you're looking better, but guys, you don't want to be coming in 8th and you got to play the Boston. Like, I don't think you guys want to go into a potentially 7-game series with Boston immediately. Like, I don't think that's what you guys want to do at the end of the season. So do a little bit better, guys. Perform better. Turn those 3-3s in the last 6 games into 4-2s and then 5-1s, okay, guys? And I know it's easier said than done, but trust me, again, like I said, you don't want to see Boston in the first round of the playoffs. I don't think that's a good look. Let's take another break, guys. When we get back, we'll talk hockey. All right, guys, Bolts are playing good hockey right now. They've been playing good hockey over the last month, something I'm very proud of. So, like I said, we'll jump right into that as soon as we get back. Thank you, guys, again for having it locked here. My name is Corey Pujols, your host for Palm Tree Sports, brought to you by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Davidson.
It's your boy Dentarius Lava.
And we are the hosts of Fast Break here on IE Sports Radio, where we discuss everything in the world of basketball from prep to the pros.
You guys should definitely check us out, man. Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. We got all the basketball information you guys need, so we look forward to you guys listening in.
And please do, because we are the best basketball show on this side of the Mississippi. And please do check us out on Twitter at FastBreakISR. D-Lock, where's our time again?
8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. That give you guys plenty of time on a Sunday.
Tune in.
What's good, fight fans? It's your boy, Marcus Los Great, here to give you what you want, here to give you what you need. Yeah, man. Yeah. I'm coming to you live, straight from your mama's basement with a crispy, awesome white tea. We are coming to you live every Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And see, that's what you look for. You know what I'm saying? You know, guys that don't really know what they're talking about, especially when they're coming to you with details about what to expect coming up next. Like, for instance, what's going to happen tonight on UFC 284. I'll talk a little bit about that, but, you know, details, you're going to have to be there to check it out, guys. Hey, my name is Corey, your host for Palm Tree Sports Radio, brought to you by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Thank you guys for having it here. We're going to go ahead and get into some NHL. We're going to talk about the Bolts. One of the hottest teams in hockey, guys. One of the hottest teams. We've been in third place pretty much the entire year, all right, guys, since the season started. But that doesn't mean we haven't been playing well. It just means there's been two other teams that have been playing just as good. And, guys, we are sporting a 34-16-2 record right now, looking really, really, really good, okay? Next up, we have the Stars, or my apologies, not next up, but we just beat the Stars, I mean to say, 3-1. The Stars are rocking a 30-14-10 record. Not too far behind us, playing really good hockey as well. Good win there. We're 5 of the last 7, something you love to see. I've talked about this last week. This team has been on fire for the last 2 months. And I said month, 2 months. It's been really about a month and a half. But, you know, the bottom line is super, super proud. There was this one blowout loss, all right? One blowout loss. It was 7-1, I think, against the Panthers. This was the game that was supposed to be on last week. I think it was right before I finished talking with you guys. It was on right as I was talking to you guys. The reason why I mentioned that is because since then they've been pretty much dominant, and that's again something you love to see, especially being a big hockey fan in the regards of watching the Bolts play. I can't say it enough. We're scoring at will, and that's the part that I like to see the most. I think. I mean, great defense is great defense. You love a great save, but there's something about just sniping that puck into the back corner of the net. You know what I'm saying? Just underneath the goalie's elbow. Or, you know, wherever the puck should go, the accuracy is always incredible and a spectacle to watch no matter who is scoring. So you love to see it. Can't wait to see what happens next. We got the Avalanche coming up next. They're third in the Central. They're rocking a 27-19-4 record. That game will be February 14th at 9 p.m. Guys, we'll see what happens. I think we can win it, of course. There's going to be some great defense, some strong shooting, scoring on power plays, you know, the regular schmegular. Got to get it done. And I believe we will get it done against the Avalanche. So, you know, I may actually be watching that game too. So if I do, obviously, I'll be able to give you firsthand on what took place. But, you know, we'll see what happens when we cross that bridge, I'll say, when it gets here. Next up, we got some spring training. Again, I mentioned this last week, so I'm just going to divvy back over this because there's not much to talk about for the Rays, of course. Until spring training starts, which will be Saturday, February 25th. It's going to be at 1:05 p.m. and we're facing the Twins. Again, spring training is always a fun time because baseball's gone for quite a few months. You feel me? So if you miss in baseball, it's no different than watching any other sport when the preseason hits. You know, it's the same thing. So I look forward to watching that first game. Again, it's going to be 1:05 right in the sunlight. It's going to be a hot day. Most likely, I mean, we'll see. We have random cold days down here. We do, guys, believe it or not. We do have random cold days. So, but odds are it's probably going to be a hot day, especially at 1:05 p.m. So get ready for that one, a nice little lunchtime spring game. And moving on from that, guys, the last bit that I have for you this evening, again, like I said, this show isn't going to be too long just because of the fact that most of our big sports are kind of out of the way at the moment with, you know, we're turning back into the spring. But, you know, for all of you guys who like martial arts or who just like the combat sport initiative, you know, whether it be boxing or K1, jiu-jitsu, whatever, UFC 284 is going to be tonight. Big big matchup. Obviously, guys, I'm not going to go into, 100% detail of the matches. That's not necessarily my job, but I just want to leave you guys with some food for thought and also what to watch for tonight. So UFC 284. It's going to be a huge fight. It's got implications on the overall number one pound-for-pound ranking. And so we'll see whoever wins this match basically not only either will retain their title and or add a title in Volkanovski's case. We'll see what happens there. But it's going to be Makhachev versus Volkanovski. That's Islam Makhachev versus Alex Volkanovski. And Volkanovski is currently ranked first pound for pound in the world. He is also the UFC flyweight champion. He's going against the newly crowned lightweight champion who just came off of an incredible submission of one Charles Oliveira. I love Charles Oliveira, but it was incredible to watch the submission master get submitted by one very young but talented Islam Makhachev. We'll see what happens. Makhachev is rocking a 23-1 record, and you have Volkanovski rocking a 25-1 record, both with only one loss in their entire MMA career as far as the UFC is concerned. But even more important than that, both of them have 15 fights finished by stoppage. So that's an alarming stat for two guys who are seemingly in their primes and just absolutely running over their divisions at the moment. In the co-main event, guys, you got Jair Rodriguez, that is, versus Josh Emmett. I've seen both of these guys fight before. Jair Rodriguez is, I don't want to put him on the same level as Israel Adesanya, but if there's a level that is adjacent, but slightly, I don't want to say adjacent, but is slightly underneath Israel's in the realm of creative striking, okay, as in the angles and the strikes that actually come from this individual and how they're able to set the traps in order for you to fall into those strikes. Yair Rodriguez is one of those young guys who has that skill. It's a very, very complex skill to develop, but naturals have it, and when they can train it and drill it and learn it and master it, they become basically unstoppable. We've seen this before with obviously Israel Adesanya, but Anderson Silva was somebody such as also the what was his name? George St. Pierre was somebody who was very creative with his striking as well as his wrestling. So those are some examples just to give you guys for what to expect from the striking prowess of one Yair Rodriguez. On the other side, he's going to be facing Josh Emmett. I'm going to be honest with you guys. This is one of the few people in MMA that scare me. This guy punches with his whole body, his whole soul. I've been watching him fight for the last 2 or 3 years now. I'm not a huge Josh Emmett fan, but I am a fight fan. And what that means is that I respect his craft, and he is absolutely one of the most devastating strikers in all of the UFC right now. And if you have not seen any of his tape, I highly encourage you that before you just blindly pick Yair Rodriguez to go look at this man's tape, because one punch and it's night-night. And I don't mean it's like one punch and then you sit down and you're seeing stars. No, he puts people to sleep on contact, not before they hit the ground, on contact. So, guys, that's going to be a tremendous co-main event and main event tonight. I kid you not, guys. These are going to be a couple fights you're not going to want to miss. I believe the co-main event is also for the interim title. If I'm not mistaken, if it's not for the interim title, then, it'll definitely set this person up for a title fight. Absolutely deserving for the title fight. So, and last bit of information as far as MMA is concerned, and for any of those who are Max Holloway fans like I am, Max Blessed Holloway will be returning to the octagon. I don't remember the guy. I think it's Allen that he's fighting. That'll be at UFC. I'm not sure if it was a fight night. I think it was. I think it's a numbered card. I'll have to get back with you guys and let you know next week. If you guys don't catch it, if somebody does, shoot me a message and let me know which one it is. And in the event that takes place, I appreciate you guys. But just want to give you some food for thought for what was going to be going on tonight in tonight's fight. And if you're not watching tonight's fight, there's some basketball, there's hockey, there's tons of college basketball. Guys, there's plenty of stuff on tonight to watch. So get ready for whatever your evening has for you. And guys, I urge you all, enjoy your weekends, guys. Times are crazy right now. Times are wild. Spend time with your family, okay? Go home. Call your mom, call your dad, call your children, call your cousins, your aunties, uncles, whoever. Spend time with your family. Pull up a chair, have a conversation, drink a beer, watch a game, whatever floats your boat. But spend time, enjoy each other's company. Life is too short, all right? It's a crazy world we live in, but it's even crazier when you don't have anybody by your side, guys. Go Knowles, indeed. Yep. I'm very proud to see what they've been able to do and what they're accomplishing, dude. So, big ups to them. Big ups to all the teams here in Florida. Miami's got a little work to do, but they'll catch back on track. But again, guys, thank you so much for joining me here on Palm Tree Sports this Saturday evening. It has been a pleasure to have you. And again, all those regulars, everybody who's out there supporting us, thank you. It's greatly appreciated. I can't wait to talk to you guys. Same time, same place next week, 6 p.m. See me up on Twitter, guys. Hit me up, send me a message if you have any questions. We can talk about anything, and I would just love to have you guys back here next Saturday, 6 p.m., and we'll get into more details about what's going on in the world of Florida sports, guys. Again, have a wonderful evening. Have a wonderful rest of the weekend, and I will catch you guys next week. Thank you, and have a good night, guys.